This is the true account of a queen enacting revenge on an entire nation. There was once a queen named Olga of Kiev. She was born to Viking parents in what is now modern-day Russia, and lived happily with her crusading husband Igor Rorikovich. While her husband was out collecting tributes from neighboring tribes, Grand Prince Igor felt betrayed by the Drevlians, a tribe that had previously helped his father gain military power, but upon his father's death, now sides with Prince Mal. Igor managed to convince the tribe to pay some tribute, but felt halfway along the trip back that it wasn't enough to cover the cost of betrayal, so he ordered his troops to turn around and head back towards the Drevlians. With news traveling faster than the approaching army, the Drevlians were able to ambush his men, slaying him much too soon. Upon hearing of her husband's death, she was met with a proposal to marry their prince instead. Now recently widowed and caring for a 3-year-old son, she did what any ride or die bitch would do: began plotting the decimation of a nation. She sent word back to a neighboring tribe, instructing them to send their ambassadors back in by boat, where her people will hoist them up and carry them inland into the courthouse, where they will have a feast and discuss the T's and C's of the proposal. After receiving the great news that the region of Kiev and Rus was effectively willing to give up her land and power, the Drevlians wasted no time gathering and sending their ambassadors post-haste just as requested. Once arriving in the harbor, Olga's people hoisted up the ambassador's ship and brought them all on shore just as they said they would, carrying them straight up to the court hall, where Olga stood, waiting to watch as her subjects tossed them all, boats and everything, directly into a ditch dug out the night before. Kneeling down, Olga watched and smiled as her subjects buried them alive. But her crusade for revenge didn't end there. She was just getting started, as word from her messenger was already making it to the Drevlians, letting them know that she had accepted their terms, and insisting that they send all their most distinguished men to escort her from her city to theirs. Not hearing of their ambassador's fate, the Drevlians eagerly gathered a group of their most well-trained and prominent people, sending them to Olga's township. Once there, Olga made sure to have the bathhouse in pristine shape and had the travelers relax and rest before they discussed the matter of returning to their homeland. Once the esteemed men were inside the bathhouse, Olga barred the doors and set fire to the building, cooking everyone inside like steamed dumplings. Immediately after, knowing that her nemesis weren't aware of their compatriot's death, she sent word back to the Drevlians, letting them know that she was on her way, but would like to make a quick stop in the city of Iskorostan to visit her late husband's tomb and mourn his passing one last time. Additionally, she requested that they send lots of mead to the city as well, as she planned to hold a funeral feast. Knowing none the wiser, the Drevlians obliged, and the people of Iskorostan welcomed her and the Kievan Rus with open arms. She did just as she promised, visiting her husband's grave to cry for him and say her final farewells. She returned to the warm, blood-stained hands of the Iskorostans and Drevlians, and let everyone enjoy themselves to their heart's content of food and mead. Once every one of the Iskorostans and Drevlians were full of alcohol and falling over, Olga made one more request to the city that slew her husband, to forfeit their lives. Turning to her own people, Olga instructed them to attack just as planned, and in the panic, the Kievan Rus were able to coldly massacre 5,000 people before they packed up to return to their rightful place in Kiev. Oh, you thought we were done here? No. Upon arrival in her people's land, she rallied enough forces to go back to Iskorostan, filled with enough rage to finish off the remaining Drevlians that fled into the city. Knowing they couldn't face the Rus head-on, the enemy forces barricaded themselves in Iskorostan, where Olga laid siege for an entire year. After which, she would state that she no longer wants revenge, and all that she asked from them to end the siege is one small tribute of 3 sparrows and 3 pigeons from each house in the city. Once tribute was paid, Olga waited for nightfall and had her troops tie pieces of cloth and sulfur to the birds. You see where this is going. Well, if you don't, she then orders her troops to set the cloth on fire and release the birds, causing them to fly directly back to what they hope is the safety of their nests, located in buildings that they all had been collected from, which were made of wood. Before too long, almost the whole city was on fire, and Olga's troops were able to breach the gates, allowing them to finish off and capture the remaining Drevlian forces, including Prince Mal. The few left behind were heavily taxed. After this, Olga continued to rule her subjects peacefully for a number of years before visiting Emperor Constantine VII, where he would propose to her, and in turn she would choose to convert her people to Christianity instead. A move that helped canonize her as Ukraine's patron saint of vengeance, with the title Apostle, which means equal to the apostles. Another story for another time, I suppose. Thank you so much for sitting through this long-ass video. If you're still here, please hit that like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is for whichever platform you find this on. I post everywhere, so you'll never miss a thing. I am and we are Mocking Nimrod. Thank you so much, and good night.